The Dispute Settlement Body, or DSB, of the World Trade Organization's WTO formally established on 30th May a panel on Indonesia's trade dispute with the European Union over the European Union's impositions of countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties on Indonesian steel products.
Previously, on January 2023, Indonesia had requested consultations with the EU regarding the imposition of countervailing and anti-dumping duties on Indonesian steel products. Indonesia emphasized that these measures are inconsistent with the EU's obligations under the Agreement on Subsidies and Countervailing Measures, the Anti-Dumping Agreement, and the GATT 1994. The consultations between the two parties was held 13th of March 2023, but was unable to resolve the dispute, the Indonesian Permanent Mission in Geneva said in a statement on the 30th of May. Indonesian Deputy Permanent Representative Ambassador Dandi Satria Iswara, who read out the Indonesian delegation statement on the request for the establishment of an Indonesian panel at the meeting, said the implementation of the EU policy has eliminated or reduced the benefits obtained by Indonesia directly or indirectly under the relevant agreements. In this regard, the request for the establishment of the panel was first submitted by Indonesia on the 18th of April 2023. As per Article 6.1 of the Dispute Settlement Understanding, or DSU, the panel will be automatically established at the next DSB meeting on DSB May 2023, after the first panel establishment request is submitted. In its response, the EU argued that its policy is in accordance with the WTO agreement and the panel will enforce the policy. While disappointed with Indonesia's decision to establish a dispute panel, the EU recognized that this was Indonesia's right. The EU also expressed readiness to discuss with Indonesia on temporary reciprocal arrangements under Article 25 of the DSU during the time the WTO appellate body is not functioning. Furthermore, at the meeting there were also 14 WTO members who expressed a desire to become third parties to dispute DS 616, namely United States, Argentina, Brazil, China, India, United Kingdom, Japan, Canada, South Korea, Russia, Singapore, Thailand, Turkey, and Ukraine. This shows the great attention and interest of WTO members in this dispute case. In accordance with Article 7.1 of the DSU, Indonesia and the EU are expected to agree on the terms of reference of the panel within 20 days after the panel's establishment.
Dispute Settlement Body, or DSB, of the World Trade Organization's WTO has formally established a panel on Indonesia's trade dispute with the European Union over European Union's impositions of countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties on Indonesian steel products. It's an honor to have with us now Pak Dandi Satria Iswara, Indonesian Ambassador to World Trade Organization's WTO. Now, he is expected to brief us about the establishment of the panel and our expectations from the consultations. Good afternoon, Pak Dandi.
Good afternoon, Stephanie.
First
I
of all,
hope everything is well in Jakarta.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for joining us today. So, the Dispute Settlement Body, or DSB, of the World Trade Organization formally established on the 30th May 2023 a panel on Indonesia's trade dispute with the European Union on countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties on Indonesian steel products. Now, when the panel is expected to begin the consultations process, and what does actually Indonesia expect from these consultations, Pak? Thank you.
Thank you. Before answering questions, let me just give a glimpse picture of the settlement process in WTO. Basically, there are two steps. First is the consultation process, and second is the litigation process. On the consultation process, both parties are having bilateral meeting to deepen the issues or policies at hand, so both parties can understand better. And this consultation process is very important because it will decide whether if the parties want to move to the next steps or not. And if the consultation, for some reasons, did not meet one member expectations, then it will start the next steps, which is litigation process. On litigation process, both parties with the panel and other WTO members as the third party then start giving submissions, reports, argumentation, and having the hearing. And following the decision to establish the panel during the SB meeting last week between Indonesia and the EU, will soon start the litigation process by doing consultations with the Secretariat of WTO to prepare the proceeding. This include decide the criteria and composition of the panel. After the composition of the panel is agreed by both Indonesia and the EU, the next process is that we, Indonesia and the EU, will be given the opportunity to submit written submissions and hearings with the panel. The panel will then examine each argument and decide on their argument. The Indonesian government believes that the basis of the lawsuits in this trade dispute is strong enough. So we are hopeful that the panel will rule in Indonesia's favor. Definitely.
All right. Previously, that we know the consultations have also taken place on the 13th March, but they was unable to, resolve this dispute. So in these consultations, such related to the appointment of a legal, so what kinds of preparations that Indonesian government actually has made in the consultations, such as related to the appointment of a legal advisor?
Before bringing this dispute, the dispute settlement body in WTO, Indonesia has gone through various interministerial agency meetings, which also involve legal experts on national industry and international trade issues. And through this process, Indonesia has gathered valuable data and inputs that could be used to further strengthen Indonesia's case against the EU. In this regard, Indonesia has also appointed a special team of lawyers who is very expert on this, who will continue to do their utmost in further strengthening the legal arguments and strengthening our factual evidence arguments during the consultation and litigation stage.
Okay, so next, what are the consequences if the WTO's Dispute Settlement Body, or DBS, finally rejects the Indonesian appeal on European Union's countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties on Indonesia's steel products?
We believe that we can prove before the panel that the EU policy of imposing a fee and anti-dumping duties on our steel products is incorrect and is a violation of the WTO subsidy agreement. We will focus on our efforts in fighting this case and protecting our national interests. As your questions, nevertheless, in the case where the panel issue a decision that are not in favor of Indonesia's case, of course, the Indonesian government will further discuss with stakeholders regarding the next steps with the rules and regulations of the SB mechanism. And in this regard, we see that one of the options appealing the decisions of the panel can be one of the our policy options.
Okay, then how big are the losses that have been suffered by Indonesia to the EU's countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties on Indonesia's steel products?
Well, if you heard our statement, there's a direct and indirect impact. And according to our preliminary estimate, the EU policy, the policy on countervailing duties, anti-dumping duties on our steel products, will definitely impact Indonesia's export of steel products to the EU market. It will impact the Indonesia export of steel products to the EU. If you see the data in 2020, the export of Indonesia steel products reached approximately 2,000 tons. And the value of that export is around 42 million euros. Again, this is the preliminary estimate from what happened to this case.
All right, thank you, Pak Dandi. On the other issue, Indonesia has also appealed on the WTO's recent ruling that favored the European Union in a dispute over Indonesia's ban on nickel ore exports. Now, has Indonesia's appeal been discussed at the WTO, and what are the consequences if that appeal is rejected?
On the nickel ore case, we called it DS592 case. We had officially submitted an appeal to the WTO appellate body on December last year. By pursuing this appeal, it should be noted that there has not been a legally binding decision. So the policy on nickel export still in force. We underline that as a WTO member, Indonesia has full rights and sovereignty over our natural resources. We have the rights in enforcing policies to increase added value through downstreaming in various potential sectors, including sectors of mining and processed products. So let me state it here that the government stands ready to defend Indonesian national interests and, of course, secure Indonesia's market access in the global market.
All right, Pak Dandi Satria Iswara, thank you again so much for your time with us here on Focus today. Pak Dandi Satria Iswara, Indonesian Ambassador to World Trade Organization's WTO. Thank you very much, Pak.
Thank you, Bu Stephanie.